Welcome back everyone to another episode of Hong Kong Horror. Simon here. Tonight, we have a deeply unsettling story coming out of rural Japan, specifically a small town in Gifu Prefecture. It's a story that revolves around the rules of the supernatural and what happens when someone deliberately gives you the wrong information just to save themselves. If you've ever felt like you were being watched in an empty room or felt a gaze on the back of your neck, sometimes your instinct is right. After our story, let's break it down together, from a Chinese cultural perspective as always. So let's get comfortable, turn down the lights, and let's dive right into this one. This story was shared by a man. Let's call him Kenji. This happened to him when he was a young man living in Japan. It was summertime, and Kenji picked up a part-time job delivering supplies to schools and small companies in the area. It was honestly pretty easy work. He drove a small light truck, making about 5 to 10 stops a day. It was quiet, as he didn't really have to speak with anyone much. It was definitely mundane work, but being the introvert that he was, he loved it. One afternoon, dispatch assigned him a delivery to an old elementary school he had never been to before. It was super rural, deep in the forests. The roads leading up to the school were winding roads with barely any cars at all. There were no houses along the road, nothing but a sea of trees. When he arrived, the summer sun was blazing, the kind of humid Japanese heat that sticks to your skin. An older man named Tanaka greeted him at the gate. Tanaka seemed friendly enough. He must have been the school's groundskeeper or janitor of some sorts. He gave Kenji a polite bow and a big smile, and directed Kenji to park up toward the school's gymnasium in the distance. "You can just drop the supplies in the storage room underneath the stage," he told Kenji. Kenji parked up outside the gym as instructed, and grabbed the boxes of random supplies, and followed Tanaka across the playground and into the gym. But as they walked, despite the intense heat of the sun, Kenji felt a strange cold sensation wash over him. They entered the gym from the back door. Inside, it was dead quiet as a graveyard. It was summertime, so school was out, so obviously there weren't any children, but it felt eerie. The air was thick with the smell of old wood and dust. Kenji looked around as he was following Tanaka with the boxes. For a moment, he felt nostalgic. The elementary school that he attended when he was a child looked a lot like this one. Most of the school's gyms probably looked similar, but Kenji couldn't help but smile as he thought back on when he was an elementary school student. The gym was probably his favorite part of school for him back then. So many fond memories of him and his friends participating in sports and physical exercises. How time flies, he thought. His nostalgia was cut short. Suddenly, Kenji felt a sharp gaze stabbing into him. It was that primal instinct that tells you something is looking at you, watching your every step. He snapped his head up toward the ceiling, looking at the heavy steel cable racks high above the court. And immediately, he saw something that shouldn't have been there. There was an old woman standing up there on the rafters. She looked like she was in her 80s, pale face, staring down straight at him. Confused, Kenji muttered, "Why is there an old woman standing all the way up there?" He stared at her. As he did, the old woman tilted her head slightly to the side. The corner of her mouth twitched upward, forming an unnatural smile. At that exact moment, Tanaka, the janitor, slapped a hand on Kenji's shoulder. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Don't look at her," Tanaka said. "If you look too long, she'll stick to you. Come on, come this way." A chill crawled up Kenji's spine. He immediately lowered his head and followed Tanaka down into the underground storage room beneath the stage. It was dark down there. Tanaka pushed some old boxes aside to make space, but he seemed jittery. "Put them there," Tanaka said, his voice trembling. "Hurry up, she's coming down. If you hear any sounds, do not respond. If you acknowledge her, she'll come closer." Right then, Kenji heard it, a high-pitched laugh. followed by the sound of footsteps rushing past him in the dark. Kenji's hands shook so hard he almost dropped the box. But remembering the warning, he didn't look. He shoved the supplies onto the shelf, stuck close to Tanaka, and practically fled the gym. Back in the safety of the maintenance office, Tanaka handed Kenji a canned coffee. The older man looked gloomy, his eyes shifting around the room nervously. "You saw her too, right?" Tanaka asked. "Most people can't see her." "Is that a ghost?" Kenji asked. Tanaka sighed. "When I first started working here, I saw her one day. I stupidly asked, 'Excuse me, ma'am, can I help you?' Ever since that day, she stuck to me, always hanging around." And as he said that, Tanaka's eyes darted over Kenji's shoulder. The corner of the old man's mouth lifted slightly. "Don't look back," he whispered. "You should go home now, quickly." Kenji felt a cold breeze on the back of his neck, like someone softly blowing on his skin. He grabbed his keys and ran. At the time, Kenji thought that was the end of it. He thought he had escaped. But he was wrong. His nightmare was just beginning. A few nights later, Kenji was out on the balcony of his apartment, smoking a cigarette. It was late. The streets were quiet. Suddenly, he heard a faint voice right behind him. Without thinking, he whipped around. There she was, the same old woman from the gym, standing on his balcony. But this time, she wasn't distant. She was inches away. And her face? It looked like a smashed watermelon. It was completely blown apart. Her eyes were hanging out of their sockets, dangling against her cheeks. She was less than 10 centimeters away from Kenji's face. Through the gore, her mouth opened into a wide, mocking smile. "Hee hee," she laughed. "You can see me, can't you?" Kenji screamed, stumbling back and curling into a corner, covering his eyes. When he finally looked up, she was gone. But from that day on, the haunting became constant, but unpredictable. When he was washing his face, he would look up and see her smashed face in the mirror, smiling back at him. When he turned a corner in the hallway, she would be standing there. If he dropped something under the table and looked for it, she would be under there, nose to nose with him. And every time, she would use this sticky wet voice. "You can see me, can't you?" Kenji eventually hit his breaking point. He drove all the way back to this elementary school to confront Tanaka to beg for a solution. But to Kenji's surprise, Tanaka was gone. He had quit the day after Kenji's delivery. Another maintenance worker was there. He used to work different shifts as Tanaka, but he has now taken over fully since Tanaka quit. When Kenji explained the situation, the worker went pale and told him the truth. Years ago, an old janitor at the school, an old woman who's worked there for many years, she was a really hard worker. She continued to push herself every day, doing as much as she was able to. She loved receiving compliments from her supervisors, saying she's done a great job and that everything was sparkling clean. One day, she wanted to clean the top of the rafters because it was covered in dust. The other staff told her not to do it, but she insisted, saying that she used to do it all the time. She didn't fully realize that her body was older now than when she first started working here. She fell. She died on impact. Her face destroyed. Her spirit remained, constantly seeking someone to look at her, to give her the approval she loved. There was a known rule among the staff at the school. It was simple. If she appears and you're able to see her, you must stare at her. If you give her your full attention, she gets bored and leaves to find someone else. But if you ignore her, she becomes obsessed. She will latch onto you for initially ignoring her out of spite. Kenji realized the horror of what happened. That day in the gym, when he was making the first delivery, Tanaka realized that this ghost was interested in the new guy. So Tanaka lied. He told Kenji not to look, specifically so that the ghost would feel ignored by Kenji and latch onto him instead. Tanaka had deliberately transferred the curse to save himself. So, Hong Kong horror fans, What do you guys think happened here? Please pause the video here and let us know what you think happened here to Kenji. It's a terrifying concept that someone would trick you into a haunting just to free themselves. It creates this moral dilemma. If you were in Tanaka's shoes and you had a ghost haunting you 24/7, would you have done the same thing to a stranger? Alright, so what do I think happened here from a Chinese cultural perspective? In my opinion, this entire story is a textbook case of a spirit whose death mindset, Seinim, controls its behavior after death. The old woman's spirit is trapped on her final thought. In Chinese folk belief, a person's final emotion or obsession at the moment of death becomes their guiding force in the afterlife. We call this zapnim. This woman died wanting recognition. Her entire identity was built around being complimented, being seen, being acknowledged as hardworking. She died still trying to be noticed, still climbing the rafters to prove herself at such an old age. So, what happens? Her zapnim becomes her haunting pattern. She wants people to look at her. She wants acknowledgement. She wants attention so badly that ignoring her is the ultimate insult. This is very classical Chinese ghost behavior. Spirits reenacting the final emotion they died with. So, what about her horrifying face? I don't think she realizes how scary she looks to other people. Her broken face isn't meant to scare others. She thinks she's simply presenting herself for recognition. Most spirits often don't know how they look because they're stuck in the final moments of their trauma. In Chinese folklore, violent deaths, hongsei, creates a specific type of ghost. We call this bousei guai or wansei guai, the violently killed ghost. These spirits experience disassociation, emotional looping, fixation on one powerful thought, and incomplete awareness of their death. They don't see the gore. They sometimes only feel the shock of falling, the internal panic, the regret. Think of it like this. Some ghosts remember the feeling of dying, but not the appearance of the body after dying. Some don't even know they're dead at all, but I don't think that was the case here. But this is why so many Chinese ghosts are described as having faces missing, distorted bodies, broken limbs, or crushed features. Yet, they behave as if nothing is wrong, because in their mind, they still look like themselves. So, you might now be wondering, how come sometimes ghosts appear beautiful even after they died from a horrific accident, while others, like this old woman, appear horrifying? Great question. There are many layers to this seemingly simple question, which is not so simple at all. It goes right to the heart of Chinese ghost theory, where appearance is not random at all. In fact, ghosts that appear beautiful, intact, or idealized, even after a horrific death, is also completely normal, and fits several traditional explanations. Here are 5 cultural reasons why some ghosts appear beautiful instead of gory, even if they died violently. Number 1. The ghost's appearance follows their self-image, not their physical body. This is the biggest rule in Chinese belief. The shape of the ghost is formed by the mind, not the flesh. We call this samsuan weiling. A ghost that died proud of its beauty and confident in its appearance will project that version of itself, because that's how it sees itself. If someone spent their entire life believing, I'm pretty, I'm clean, and I look normal, then after death, the ghost's default form becomes that emotional memory, not the broken corpse left behind. So even if they died in a tragic accident that destroyed their face, they appear in the form that matches their self-perception, not their death condition. Number 2. Some ghosts choose their appearance intentionally. In Chinese folklore, certain types of spirits, especially female spirits, Loi Guai, seducing spirits, Mei Ling, and vengeful spirits, Yun Ling, can shape their appearance based on what they want. A ghost who wants sympathy, wants to lure someone, wants to deceive, wants validation, and wants emotional attention can sometimes choose a pleasing or harmless appearance. This is why so many Hong Kong and mainland China stories, the ghost appears as a beautiful woman or as their youthful version, even if their death was really messy. They create a form that best serves their emotional goal. Number 3. If the ghost is stable, the physical trauma does not imprint. This part is deep Chinese metaphysics. Violent death equals a ghost that appears broken because the soul cannot stabilize. Natural death plus strong self-image. The ghost appears clean and intact. When someone dies horrifically and panics, their 원파, a part of their soul, breaks, trapping the physical trauma into their ghost form. But sometimes people die violently, without fear or shock. For example, they didn't realize what happened. Death was instant. Or they had a very strong mental presence. They were emotionally stable. Or they just accepted their fate. In these cases, the ghost form does not reflect the physical injury. They simply appear as the version of themselves they were most familiar with. Number 4. Some ghosts hide their true form until they want you to see it. A very common Chinese belief. Ghosts have two faces, the one they show and the one they actually have. This is why in so many stories, the ghost first appears pretty, then later reveals a destroyed face, or only shows their true form in reflective surfaces, or only at the moment they attack. Because the beautiful form is a mask, often tied to habit of wanting normal interaction. The true gory form is usually revealed when the haunting intensifies or when the ghost becomes unstable. So beauty and gore both exist. The ghost simply chooses which to reveal first. Number 5. Certain ghosts appear as their best self because they reject their own death. This is the saddest kind. The ghost behaves as if it never died. If the person was attached to their looks and feared judgment in life, then their ghost form becomes the version of themselves they wish they still were. Because this is the identity they cling to. Traumatic death is something they refuse to accept, so the physical damage is filtered out of the ghost's projection. So to put it simply, gory ghosts equals spirits stuck in trauma. Beautiful ghosts equals spirits stuck in self-image. Both are equally common in Chinese ghost stories. They simply reflect different emotional states at death. So here's a quick summary. If someone dies with fear, shock, denial, they usually end up as a broken, gory, distorted ghost. If they died with vanity, pride, desire, then their ghost form most likely will look beautiful, clean, idealized. If they died in confusion, routine, then they're going to look like their normal everyday appearance in life. If they died feeling vengeance or seduction, then their ghost form could have multiple different appearances that they could choose. And if they died with acceptance, stability, then they're going to look very normal, very peaceful, and intact. I think that the old woman in the story falls within the category of a ghost that cannot stabilize, so the trauma becomes visible. A ghost not being able to stabilize means a condition where the wanpa, the two core parts of the soul, do not settle properly after death. A stable ghost is aware of its death, aware of its form, is emotionally settled, is able to maintain a consistent appearance, and is able to choose whether to show itself. An unstable ghost, on the other hand, does not fully understand it's dead. It cannot hold itself together spiritually. This causes a horrifying appearance, glitch-like movements, and inconsistent behaviors. They usually repeat one emotion or memory. They can also attach to the nearest living person, and they lack self-awareness. The biggest cause of unstable spirits are accidents that happen extremely fast, like falling from great heights or a car crash. Their pa has no time to detach properly. It's like the soul is cracked and keeps repeating the last emotional imprint. This will sometimes cause unstable ghosts that wake up confused and looping the last moments. Ghosts with an appearance of how they died and the inability to change form. It all comes down to the individual, but this is a very loose guideline. So why does this old woman's spirit leave you alone after you give her attention? This rule, if you stare at her long enough, she'll leave you alone. Sounds Japanese, but it actually mirrors a common Chinese principle. A ghost that wants attention must be fed attention. Some spirits obey a warped emotional logic. If the spirit receives what it wants, it becomes satisfied. If it's denied, it becomes persistent. This deadly inversion is essentially the Chinese concept of appeasing the ghost's final regret. So why was this old woman able to follow Kenji home? In many Japanese ghost stories, the spirit is tied to a place, but in Chinese ghost logic, a certain type of spirit can attach to a person if the emotional bond is triggered. This type of spirit is called ganyanguai. They stick to you because you triggered their obsession. In Kenji's case, he ignored her. He looked confused instead of impressed. He reacted with fear instead of acknowledgement. From a Chinese cultural point of view, this ghost would see him as someone who must be corrected, so of course she followed him home. Also, why did Tanaka lie? And why did this make perfect sense from a Chinese cultural morality standpoint? I think that many Chinese audience will instantly recognize Tanaka's behavior as Gokyu Taoban, pulling the ladder the moment you've crossed the bridge. Basically, he saved himself by sacrificing the next person who came along. In Hong Kong, older generations often talk about people passing their bad luck onto others intentionally, especially when it comes to ghosts. The idea is that bad spirits choose new victims. You can deflect them to someone else. After that transfer, the spirit follows that new person instead of you. Tanaka 100% knew the rule. If you ignore her, she will follow you. And he purposely gave Kenji the wrong instructions. From a Chinese cultural lens, this is not surprising. It's considered morally dirty, but understandable. Saving yourself at the expense of a stranger. He probably had this ghost following him for years. He likely reached this breaking point. I don't believe this old woman was a vengeful ghost. She was just lost and obsessive. Her question, "You can see me, can't you?" isn't a threat. It's desperation. She wants confirmation that someone finally notices her. Her haunting is really just a tragic loop. She shows herself, expects praise or acknowledgement. She doesn't realize she looks horrific. People react with fear. She becomes frustrated and clings even harder. This is classic guanye gui behavior, wandering ghost behavior. A lonely soul driven by its last emotion. And that brings us to the end of this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed today's story. Thank you so much for making it to the end. Looking forward to speaking with all of you again next week.